empty commerce. In the 1900s, my great-great-grandmother came to this country teetering on the deck of a ship, her head bowed in resolve. Her hands were white, her feet bound. She could barely walk, so her husband could have the excuse not to run. She was a tiger with the beast trained out of her, but when she bit her tongue, she could still feel her fangs. Sometimes I wonder where my fangs have gone. The truth is, I never knew her. I know only that she existed so I could exist, and that she was afraid, as I am so often afraid. Her story is not history. Her legacy lies in the belly of the wolf with the ghosts of all the other dead grandmothers whose voices could not reach minds that were too small to hear, and I have spent my life inheriting dreams I'm not really sure she had. You see, my great-great-grandmother came to this country in an age where its progress and potential was a promise and not a punchline. Our ancestors' legacy was one of endurance. While the air shuddered with bullets and the screech of falling bombs, they looked to the horizon for the dawn of something better. Their legacy was never losing face while their land was swallowed by the feet of marching columns and split by the threads of tanks. They cut their teeth on colonialism, communism, chewing up chaos and swallowing the blood in their mouths. From our grandmothers, we learned to turn scraps into a meal and to make do. But somewhere along the way, we decided that we had enough food on our table, enough currency to trade stamina for atrophy, endurance for indifference. When did we learn to be content with survival when we could look back to that horizon and be so much more? You see, in the last few decades, we decided that we are content with mediocrity. And from the ashes of our ancestors' legacy, we developed excuses for the inexcusable, while we look in jealousy at our neighbors who have so much more because they refuse to settle. When we excuse each other the unforgivable crime of being late, because it is Malaysian timing. We excuse ourselves from the need to be held accountable for our promises. When we wave our hands in dismissal and say, it's just the government, we allow them to be just a government. When we pay thousands of ringgit in extra tuition fees, we tell our school teachers that it is acceptable to be mediocre, to teach our children that success is bought and sold and integrity is someone else's problem, instead of an oath we make in the core of ourselves. And so our children learn to wait for someone else to do the work for them, for someone else to speak up as they flirt briefly, chastely with the dream of something better before they are distracted by perhaps next time. And the problem is so much bigger than me. And at least we're better than whatever African country our politicians are running on today. And I wonder when our culture became synonymous with drowning the part of us that fought back, as our authorities continue to silence those who shout in voices that we have not dared to use since we were children, screaming for milk, begging to be fed. Because when you grow up in this country, you learn to stop making demands, and you learn to settle, like a nail on the floor of a great ship going under and over and here and there, but always with its head beaten down. But we do complain. How do we ever complain? But our revolutions circle around a metal mamak table, preaching to a choir, while we remain complicit and we remain comfortable, unseditiously offending nobody, as we create for our descendants a legacy of disgruntled silence, writing ourselves out of the history books by never writing ourselves in. Oh, but every few years, we put our yellow costumes on and we march in droves into the heart of Dataran Merdeka. We buy some souvenirs, we take some selfies, upload them in the comfort of our home so we can tell ourselves, I made a difference today. Because one grand gesture is always enough to make up for years of inactivity. And when our activists are thrown in prisons for their refusal to conform, we scream our outrage into silent screens, once again mistaking Facebook for our voice. Confusing the empty commerce of social media for the currency of change, because what is 400 likes in the face of 2.6 billion? But it's okay. If the movie gets too bad, we can just leave the theater. Join our friends and relatives who have carved out better lives elsewhere like our ancestors did. So it is the 21st century, and here we stand on the deck of a sinking ship. Our hands are white, our feet are bound. We can barely walk, so we have the excuse not to run. And as we bite down, we wonder where our tongues have gone. Thank you.